how you doing? Today we are doing my August wrap up. It's a bit late because circumstances just wanted it to happen that way, but we're doing it nonetheless. But this month I read a total of 17 books, which is a decrease from the last couple of months, but I do still think that's like a decent amount. I read 5,656 pages, which is an average of 332.705 pages per book and 182.45 pages per day. For the format, I read 4 books that I own, 2 ebooks, 5 galleys from NetGalley, 6 library books, and then for rating, I have 1 star, 2 stars, 4 3 stars, 9 4 stars, 1 5 star, and an average rating of a 3.4. So like, even though I have ratings from all over the place, like I have so many 4 stars that I feel like I had such a great reading month. Then for age range, I read 7 young adult novels, 1 new adult, and 9 adult novels. And for genre, we have 2 historical fictions, 4 horror, 4 fantasy, 4 manga, and 3 contemporary reads. So yeah, that's the stats. The first book that I read in the month of August is An Earl to Remember by Stacy Reid, which I give 5 stars since I got it from NetGalley. This honestly is a book full of tropes that I don't like, mainly the amnesia trope. I don't know, I've never liked amnesia, but somehow I had such a fun time with this book. It's completely unexpected. Like, I requested it kind of like not knowing what it was about, because I have read a Stacy Reid before and I really enjoyed that, and I've heard a lot of great things about Stacy Reid, so I didn't know what it was about. But I actually think this book executed them pretty decently. I think the couple had a lot of chemistry. It's not like a perfect romance novel. I wasn't like swooning, and I still definitely had some issues with it, but like they were dampened by the fact that I had so much fun with it, which is why it is a 4 stars for me. Then next I read Reputation by Lex Croucher, which I gave 5 stars too. And again, Lex Croucher is an author I have read from before and really enjoyed, and I've heard a lot of great things about, so I was very excited to get around to this. I think it's their debut, I'm not entirely sure, and I really liked it. This one is pitched as Jane Austen meets Mean Girls, and that's definitely like a right comparison. It's so much fun, and it's about toxic friendships. Like, yes, there is a relationship in this book that is adorable and I love it so much, but I do think like the main focus of this book is toxic friendships, and how kind of like having a toxic person in your life can make you turn toxic as well. And I thought like all of that was really well done. This does get very dark towards the ending, which doesn't really match the tone of the rest of the book. Next, I read Night of the Living Queers, edited by Shelly Page and Alex Brown, which I got 5 stars to, as I got from NetGalley. This is a YA horror anthology following queer authors and queer characters, and I honestly really had a fun time with this. I think there is a great variety of like spook level. There are some that are like generally like terrifying, while some are just a little bit eerie, and others are just like more fancy, like more spoopy instead of spooky, and I really enjoyed that. And there's also like a great variety in what brought the scares, like when it comes to ghosts or like demons or just like whatever. I feel like everything around it was like a great variety of things. I just had a lot of fun reading it. Next, I read The Iron Vow by Kagawa, which I gave 5 stars to. This showed up in 3 videos that I posted in August, so if you don't know my thoughts on this, I'm sorry, but I read this for meeting like my most anticipated 2023 releases. And then I also talked about it in my Iron Fae Evenfall series discussion and in my A Guide to Iron Fae World video as well. So just like take your pick on whatever video I want to watch to know my thoughts on this. But basically, I enjoyed this. I have a lot of complicated feelings towards this book though, because I think that as a book, as a standalone novel, which it wouldn't work that way, but like if you just look at it for what it is, I thought this was very boring, and I feel like I could have done a lot more with the very interesting elements that it introduced in this book, and also the interesting that it continues on with. I feel like we could have delved into things more deeply, or like explored more of the world, or like done something. I feel like for most of this book we barely did anything, and then the ending was very action-packed, and I loved that. But as a conclusion to the series and to the Iron Fae world, because I believe this is the last book Kagawa is writing in the Iron Fae world, this was phenomenal. Like, I cried towards the ending because of how beautifully it wrapped up everything, and how it just managed to bring all of these elements in from all of the previous series and all of the previous books and work it in a conclusion that just makes so much sense and I really love. Then next I read Monster Volume 16, Welcome Home by Naoki Urasawa, which I gave 5 stars to. I really enjoyed this volume. I just think the beginning was a little bit boring, but then like the second half was really action-packed and I was on the edge of my seat. You can tell that we're getting towards the ending of the series, so yeah, I was excited to read. And then I read Monster Volume 17, I'm Back by Naoki Urasawa, which I gave 4 to 5 stars to. This was so close to a 5-star for me, but I just feel like I was missing some elements for it to like fully love it. Then of course I also read Monster Volume 18, Scenery for Doomsday by Naoki Urasawa, which I gave 5 stars to. This is the final book in the series and I just thought it was a bit of a letdown. Like it was very action-packed and edge of my seat, but I just feel like I didn't get enough answers to be satisfied with it. Like, to be fair, I don't need an answer to every single question raised in a series ever. Like, it's fine if you leave things a bit open-ended, but I felt like too much was left unanswered and I still felt so confused by the ending of this volume that I was like, this is it, really? Then next I read Happy Place by Emily Henry, which I gave 5 stars to. I loved this. Like, oh my god, I've been putting off reading this because it's been out for a little bit, but I've been putting off reading this because I had heard so many mixed things about it. And I mean, Emily Henry's performances always kind of get mixed response, but I feel like Happy Place is definitely the one that I've seen the most like mixed responses from. I was nervous to get into it because I thought I wouldn't like it because, you know, all of the negative reviews that I was seeing, but I should just trust my gut. This sounded like something that was right up my alley, and it fucking was. This was incredible. I cried. I felt all the feels. I felt all the romancy goodness. I felt every emotion. I think this is one of the best cases of a second chance romance that I've ever seen. I also really love the friendship elements in this because I feel like that's the reason why this has gotten so many negative reviews. This does focus quite a lot on friendships, of the different friendships in this book, and I mean characters like personal journey. And if you are like a big romance reader, you might not enjoy that too much, but I generally thought those elements were so well executed and I loved it so much, and it was just a beautiful addition to just have an amazing romance on top of that as well. Then next I read The Last Girl Standing by Jennifer Dugan, which I gave 1 of 5 stars to, as I got from NetGalley. I really didn't like this book, and I think the reason why is because I thought it had so much potential. When I first started reading this, I was enjoying my time. I thought the setup of it was so interesting, and I was very interested to see what it was gonna do with it, to find the answers to what was going on. And then kind of it got really repetitive, and we kind of just kept circling the same conflict over and over and over again, and I got tired of that. It was like, if it just comes to an epic conclusion, like it's still not the worst thing I've ever read, but then the ending is the worst thing I've ever read. Like, it's dumb as fuck. Like, I've seen some people on Goodreads call it genius because they never saw it coming. I'm like, no, you didn't see it coming because it's stupid. Nothing about what we've been reading makes sense that this is the conclusion we were going towards. Like, nothing. I hated it so much. Then next I read The Stolen Heir by Holly Black, which I give 5 stars to. This again was one of my most anticipated vlog. I really loved the Cool Print series after not liking 4 of Holly Black's books. Yes, I read 4 books by Holly Black before getting into the Folk of the Air series. I didn't really like those books. I really loved the Folk of the Air series, and I was hoping this was going to be the same vein as the Folk of the Air. And like, a lot of people told me it's not as good, but it's so good. No. I'm generally starting to think that the Holly Black who wrote the Folk of the Air books is a very different person than the Holly Black who wrote every single other book. Like, yes, I have not read her entire backlist, but like, this wasn't great. I think it was very boring. Not a lot happened in this book except towards the end, and what happened at the end, I'm not the biggest fan of. I don't think it's bad, especially, but it could evolve into like interesting things. I just think it could have been set up a bit better. It kind of came out of nowhere. And I didn't really like our main character. I thought she was just very stupid and a red rag. I didn't like her. And I will read the second book because I am interested enough. And it's only a duology, so why the fuck not? But I didn't like this. I'm sorry. Then next I read The Sun and the Star by Rick Riordan Mark Oshiro. Again, I have 2 videos this August in which I talked about this book. I did a full-on spoiler vlog, so you can go check it out if you have read this book. And I also did a guide to the Camp Hellboy Chronicles, in which I also talked about this book very briefly. I don't know if I said it, but I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed this. It wasn't a 5-star for me, but I found it hard to explain why it wasn't, because I did generally really enjoy it. I don't really can give you like any faults of it, but I just it wasn't quite there for me. I really enjoyed it. I really loved following Nico and Will. I thought they were so adorable as a couple. Like, they've been in the background of so many books now, and it was just nice to have a book kind of focusing on them, especially on Nico, and get to see from his perspectives and like from his innermost thoughts. And I thought that was really interesting. I also really like how this book was mainly about Nico like learning to fight his demons and letting go of like coming to terms with like his trauma and like all the things he's been through. And I really liked how that was done throughout the book. And even though it dealt with such serious subject matter, I do think that overall this book was a very fun time. Then next I read Codename Charming by Lucy Parker, which I give it 5 stars from the Gallery from Nagali. This book is kind of the opposite of An Earl to Remember for me, because this book sounded right up my alley. Like, it's fake dating, royalties involved, but not directly, as we have a bodyguard. I was so hyped for this, honestly, and I didn't like it, and I can't fully explain to you why. I just didn't feel the chemistry between our two leads. I think that's it. They did have some cute moments together, but I do feel like at a certain point the cute moments like got too much, and it felt like very forced and fake instead of just like having it being like natural, I guess. I don't know, I was bored throughout quite a lot while reading this book. I just think the author just like over explained sometimes what the characters were feeling or going through, and yeah, I don't know, it didn't work for me, and I can't fully explain why. Then next I read Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon Volume 1 by Naoki Takeuchi, which I give 1 of 5 stars to. I have no familiarity with Sailor Moon, but I've heard a lot of great things about it, mainly the anime, but also about the manga. So when I saw it at my library, I decided to check it out, and I really enjoyed it. Like, this felt weirdly nostalgic for me, considering I don't zero familiarity with Sailor Moon. I had so much fun reading this. It's not a 5-star because it's not amazing, and it feels very introductory, this first volume, and like very much like a setup, but I totally enjoyed it. I have volume 2 lined out from the library already because it was so much fun. Then next I read Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings, which I gave 2 out of 5 stars to. That ended up being a bit of a disappointment for me, because even though I wasn't expecting this to be a 5-star, I was at least hoping for a 4. It's just like the vibes of this seemed right up my alley. And I think my problem with this is just that I hate BJ so much. Like, I can't stand him. I think he's scum of the earth, the worst person, the worst possible human to have ever existed, and I despised reading from him. And by the end, I wanted him to die, like literally. I know there's more books in the series, and I hope he dies in one of them, because I could not care less. I do think that if I liked BG a little bit more, this would have still been a 4-star. I think I just got too frustrated by him at a certain point. This is very toxic, self-involved, not great but fun times, you know? Then next I read Mr. Magic by Kiersten White, which I give 2 to 5 stars to. Got it from Nagali. I really enjoyed Hyde by Kiersten White, which came out last year, I think, or the year before. I'm not entirely sure, but that was a very like unpopular opinion to like that. I feel like most of the people just like didn't hate it but didn't like it, and I really enjoyed it. So I was really excited for this book, especially because it involved like a TV show from back in the day, and now they're getting reunited and like stuff's going on, and it sounded like right up my alley. And it didn't work for me, because again the ending just let me down. I think that's a big part of this book. I was having like a fun enough time with it, and I like kind of like the atmosphere that it was around the show, because besides just the perspective of our like characters who are doing the reunion, we are also get like pieces of like forums and like Wikipedia pages and like Twitter threads and everything of people talking about the show, because it's been wiped from existence. Like, you can find it nowhere. So like people talking about it online, it's like, hey, does anyone remember this? Am I making things up and stuff like that, and like talking about it in that way? And I think all of that's really interesting, and I added to like the creepy atmosphere around the show, because also something happened and that's why it ended, but like nobody really fully knows what happened. And yeah, I enjoyed it. But then I feel like we went in a direction, and I don't know, I was expecting something creepier, and I wasn't a big fan of it, but I was liking it still. And then like the ending happened. I was like, this is stupid. Like, I get it, but do I like it? No. Next, with Patricia Wants to Cuddle by Samantha Allen, which is 4 to 5 stars. And again, this is one that is one outside of my comfort zone, and 2 right up my alley, because just the premise of this alongside with the cover and the title just sounded so fun to me. But I could also recognize that a book like this typically isn't in my wheelhouse, but I had so much fun reading it. I thought it was so fun. I really loved the reality TV show aspect to it. I thought it made everything kind of like more lighthearted and fun. And then I think the atmosphere of this book is like its main drawing point, because I could feel like danger lurking around every corner, even if technically we were in like fine, okay circumstances. And I just really like how it builds. The one reason why this wasn't a 5-star is because every character is extremely one-dimensional, and for some characters that works because they fit into like this perfect archetype of like a reality TV show contest, of like a reality TV show contestant, or like a reality TV show producer as well. We get a perspective from, but like they fit archetypes that are well established within the reality TV world. But for other characters, I just felt like it made me not know them, and it made them fall flat, and I didn't really understand like their motivations or anything, and I got a bit disinterested reading from their chapters because I didn't know them. And then lastly, for this month, I read Hotel Magnifique by Emily G. Taylor, which I gave 5 stars to. This one started off fun for me because the magic system in this one is so interesting, and how Hotel Magnifique works is so interesting. And it starts off slow. It's very slow in the beginning, and you know, this is a standalone, so about halfway through I was getting worried. I was like, I have no clue where the direction of this book is going in, because nothing has happened yet, but I was enjoying the vibes, you know. And then a little bit over halfway through, we got into like the plot, and everything moves so quickly, like so quickly. We don't got a time to sit with anything, and therefore just the pacing feels off, because like the first half and a bit more is a slog to get through. And the second half is just like a speed run of events. Like it goes so quickly. And I just feel like this could have been paced better. And on top of that, I don't like the main character. Once we get into that action-packed last bit, we get to see more of her personality come through, and it wasn't pretty. That really just like dragged down my enjoyment from this book. And yeah, it's a fun time still. It's not a bad book, and I had an enjoyable enough time reading it, which is why it's a 3-star. But I just also had like a lot of issues with it apparently. So yeah, there you go. That is everything that I read in the month of August. Let me know in the comment section below if you've read these books, what you thought of them, just how of some of the books you read in the month of August, and hopefully I'll see you next time.
Here I am again, the same old situation. Why does the God thing have to be so complicated? Should have